Manchester Engineering Works. Manchester. The most expensive CNC machine in the factory, $600,000 of German precision technology, suddenly stops. James Richardson, 52-year-old engineer who has run the line for 15 years, cannot repair it. In front of all the workers, his pride drives him to a challenge that will change everything. "If you can fix it, I'll give you my entire salary." Beach. He doesn't know that Harry, the quiet mechanic everyone ignores, hides a secret that will overturn all certainties. A British story of pride, humility, and redemption that will show you the true value of a person isn't measured by qualifications, but by hands that can create miracles. The deafening noise of the production line cuts out suddenly, as if someone had stolen the breath from the factory. The metallic sound of machines that for 15 hours a day sets the rhythm of life at Manchester Engineering Works vanishes into nothing, leaving behind an unsettling silence that weighs like lead in the humid air of the workshop. James Richardson looks up from his glass-walled office on the second floor, coffee still steaming in his calloused hands. Through windows fogged by machine vapor, he sees workers stop abruptly, like soldiers who have lost their command. That machine, the German CNC unit, the technological jewel of the factory, was never supposed to stop. In 15 years of running this production line, James had built his reputation on one iron promise. Under his command, machines don't stop. He'd been hired precisely for that, for his ability to keep everything under control, to foresee problems before they happened. He was the engineer who didn't sleep at night if there was even the slightest suspicion of malfunction. He descends the metal staircase with determined steps, his shoe heels echoing on the iron steps like a war drum. The immaculate white shirt, perfectly ironed by his wife that morning, contrasts with the industrial gray of the environment, with the smell of oil and metal that permeates every inch of the factory. The workers watch him in silence, knowing from experience that when James has that face, clenched jaw, furrowed brows, long, nervous steps, it's better to stay quiet and not get in the way. The German CNC machine, worth $600,000, lies motionless like a sleeping giant. 8 meters long, 3 meters high, 4 tons of steel and cutting-edge technology that now seem completely useless. The main screen is pitch black. No flashing red alarms, no error codes that would at least indicate a direction. Only an accusing silence that seems to scream James's failure. He approaches the control console with his expert hands, the same hands that have learned every secret of this machine over the past 5 years. He opens the main electrical panel, checks the fuses, verifies the connections. Numbers dance in his head like an obsession. 15 minutes of downtime means $2,500 net loss. 1 hour, $10,000 going up in smoke. If he can't get it running before the end of shift, the damage will exceed $40,000. Bob, the shift supervisor with 30 years of factory experience under his belt, approaches with uncertain steps. His face is marked by worry. He knows how crucial this machine is for the week's orders. He explains to James that the machine stopped suddenly, without warning, while working an urgent order for Jaguar. 1 second it was functioning perfectly, the next it was dead. From the shadows of the workshop, near the bench with the oldest tools, emerges Harry Thompson. A man around 50, stocky but not tall, with enormous hands stained with grease that seem to have touched every piece of metal in this factory. He's the mechanic everyone calls the silent one, because he only speaks when strictly necessary, who handles small routine repairs, whom nobody considers really important. One of those who become practically invisible when management visits the factory. Harry had started working there 20 years ago when James was still at university. He's seen 3 factory managers come and go, 5 shift supervisors, dozens of young engineers full of theory but poor in practice. He's always stayed there, faithful to his workbench, to his worn screwdrivers, to his spanners that he knows one by one. 2 interminable hours pass. James has called technical support from the parent company in Germany, made a 40-minute video call with Klaus, the senior technician from Munich, who knows this machine better than anyone. He's checked every circuit, every temperature sensor, every connection on the motherboard. He's downloaded logs from the past 7 days, analyzed every parameter, verified the supply voltage. Nothing. The machine remains mute, obstinate in its silence, as if it had decided to take permanent leave. The workers begin murmuring among themselves, casting furtive glances towards James. Some shake their heads, others check their watches, calculating how much production time they're losing. James feels the weight of their gazes, feels his authority slipping through his fingers like sand. 15 years of unquestioned leadership threatening to collapse in one morning. Dave, one of the younger workers, approaches timidly and suggests calling an external technician, perhaps someone from Birmingham who knows these machines. James strikes him down with his gaze. Calling an external technician would mean publicly admitting his failure, telling everyone that engineer James Richardson is no longer capable of controlling his factory. It's at this moment of maximum tension that Harry approaches slowly, his heavy steps echoing on the polished cement floor. He walks with the tranquility of one who isn't in a hurry, of one who has learned that in life solutions come when they must come. He stops 2 meters from the machine, observes it for a few seconds with eyes that seem to see beyond the surface. He asks, in his low, rough voice, if he can have a look. James turns sharply, looks him up and down with a mixture of disbelief and irritation. Harry, with his worn blue overalls patched in several places, his worn safety shoes, his hands that know more about grease than keyboards. The idea that this man, this simple mechanic with studies interrupted God knows when, could succeed where he, an engineer graduated with honors from Manchester University, has failed, seems to him not only absurd, but almost offensive. Around them, about 30 workers have stopped working and watch the scene in silence. The air is thick with tension, expectation, that morbid curiosity that arises when you sense something important is about to happen. James feels all those eyes on him, feels he must do something, say something that reestablishes his authority, that reminds everyone who's in charge of this factory. His voice echoes through the entire workshop, amplified by the echo of the metal walls. "You know what, Harry? If you can fix it, I'll give you my salary. All of it. A whole month." The words come out with more force than he'd intended, loaded with a challenge that tastes of desperation disguised as confidence. A deathly silence falls over the factory, heavier than the noise of the machines before. Even workers who were working at other stations stop and turn towards them. Harry looks him in the eyes for the first time in years, perhaps for the first time ever. And for an instant, that seems to last an eternity. James sees something in those dark eyes that frightens him more than the machine breakdown. A quiet confidence, a deep awareness, as if Harry knew exactly what was wrong and how to fix it. Harry nods slowly, without saying a word. James expected laughter, a joke, perhaps an embarrassed refusal. Instead, Harry leans over the machine with the naturalness of one who has waited for this moment his entire life. He simply says to give him 10 minutes. James laughs nervously, reminding him that he's spent 4 hours on it. Siemens technicians 2 hours on the phone. But Harry doesn't respond. He's already opened the main panel, and his hands move with a precision that James had never noticed. There's no hesitation, no uncertainty. Every gesture seems guided by deep, instinctive knowledge. The workers approach, forming a circle. Harry removes an electronic board, examines it against the light, then places it delicately on a workbench. His fingers tremble slightly, but not from uncertainty, from emotion. Harry points to a microscopic component, explaining it's a ceramic capacitor of 0.1 microfarads burnt out by a power surge from the mains this morning at 6:23. James asks incredulously how he knows the exact time. Harry responds that he was there, that he's always there when James arrives. For the first time in 15 years, James really notices Harry. The deep wrinkles around his eyes, hands marked by scars from a lifetime of work, the slightly curved back of one who has spent decades bent over machinery. Harry improvises a replacement with a 0.15 microfarad capacitor, explaining that he's spent 20 years watching this machine, studying it, understanding it. While James directed it from above, he touched it, felt it breathe. Harry solders the improvised component with precise, almost surgical movements. His hands no longer tremble. He reassembles everything, closes the panel, stands up slowly. He tells James to turn it on. James hesitates. If Harry is right, his authority is finished. If he's wrong, this machine could be destroyed forever. He presses the start button. The machine emits a dull hum, then lights up. Screen active, all LEDs green, the robotic arm resuming its fluid movements. Spontaneous applause breaks out among the workers. James remains motionless, watching this machine that works perfectly, repaired by a man he'd always considered insignificant. Harry wipes his hands with a rag, then looks James in the eyes. His salary is $200 a month, he says. His is probably a bit more. But what Harry doesn't know is that James, in that moment, is discovering something that will change everything. That night, James can't sleep. He lies awake in his flat in Didsbury, thinking about Harry's hands moving over the machine like a pianist's on a piano. There was something too precise, too professional in those movements. The next day, he arrives at the factory an hour earlier than usual, but Harry hasn't shown up. It's the first time in 20 years. James feels a knot in his stomach and decides to go look for him. He finds Harry sitting on a bench in the courtyard, with a photograph in his hands.
Enjoying the story? Give it a little like, and don't forget to subscribe. Now then, let's carry on.
Harry knew he would come. He shows James the photograph, a young man in graduation robes, smiling, in front of Manchester University. It takes him a moment to recognize it. It's Harry, 20 years younger. Mechanical engineering, first-class honors, specialization in industrial automation. Thesis on latest generation CNC control systems. Harry had a design consultancy in 2004, small but promising. Then came an important contract, designing a production line for an automotive components factory. On test day, the line had a breakdown, an error in the control software he hadn't foreseen. A worker was seriously injured. Harry lost everything: the office, the house, the fiancé, and above all, he lost confidence in himself. He swore he would never design anything again, never touch a computer again. But the day before, he couldn't help it. When he saw that stopped machine, when he heard the silence, it was like hearing a loved one suffer. He couldn't leave it like that. Harry says that tomorrow he'll return to his place, put on the blue overalls, and pretend yesterday never happened, as he's done for 20 years. James tells him he's a walking waste of talent. Harry responds that he's a man who has learned that sometimes it's better to stay in the shadows than risk hurting someone. James is about to respond when Harry's phone rings. an agitated voice on the other end. There's been an accident at the factory. As they run towards the machine, James understands that Harry's past is about to repeat itself. When they arrive at the factory, the ambulance is already leaving. Tom will be all right, Bob explains. Hand injury, 15 stitches, but nothing serious. The machine Harry repaired had a sudden movement during maintenance. Harry turns to ice. It's his fault, he whispers. The improvised capacitor, he's made the same mistake again. But the Siemens technicians are already there and want to speak with him. The senior technician congratulates Harry. It was masterful work. The capacitor he replaced not only solved the problem, but also improved system stability. The accident has nothing to do with his repair. Harry leans against a workbench, his legs no longer supporting him. 20 years of guilt dissolving in an instant. The technician asks where he learned to work on Siemens systems at this level, explaining they're always looking for specialized technicians. James makes a decision that will change everything. Harry isn't just a worker, he's an engineer. Harry Thompson, Manchester University, specialization in industrial automation, and the best bloody technician they've ever seen. That afternoon, James calls Harry into his office. He's spoken with management. They've authorized creating a new position, technical manager for specialized maintenance, engineer's salary, decision-making autonomy, his own laboratory. James explains that yesterday Harry taught him something he'd forgotten. In 15 years, he'd believed that leading meant controlling everything from above. Harry made him understand that true leadership is recognizing the value of others. There's one condition: his salary. He's really giving it to him. For a month. It's a promise. It's not a question of accepting, it's a question of justice. That evening, Harry calls his daughter in London. They hadn't spoken for months. He tells her that, from tomorrow, he's going back to being an engineer. Emma responds with a broken voice that she's happy. She knew it would happen sooner or later. She was never ashamed of him. She was ashamed of seeing him waste his talent. But what nobody knows is that the real change has yet to come. 3 months later, the factory has changed. Harry has transformed a corner of the workshop into a precision laboratory. The CNC machine hasn't stopped again, and he's solved a dozen problems nobody believed were solvable. But today, there are 3 black Mercedes with German plates in the car park. Henkel Industries Group is evaluating whether to acquire the factory. If the deal goes badly, they'll close everything and relocate to Romania. The 3 Germans enter accompanied by the managing director. The delegation leader is called Klaus Richter. He has the air of one who has closed hundreds of factories without blinking. The visit starts badly. Richter immediately notices 2 obsolete machines, an improvable quality control system, production costs that could be reduced by 30% by relocating. He stops in front of Harry's laboratory, asking who manages the specialized maintenance department that has reduced machine downtime by 78% in the last 3 months. Harry introduces himself. Harry Thompson, Mechanical Engineering, Manchester University. 20 years of experience. Richter seems interested for the first time and asks for a demonstration. Harry shows the predictive maintenance system he's installed: vibration, temperature, and current sensors that constantly monitor the state of each component. The system predicts breakdowns before they happen. Richter asks increasingly complex technical questions, and Harry responds with a competence that surprises even James. Richter asks how this scales to an entire factory. Harry says if he gives him 6 months, he can implement this system across the entire line. He can reduce maintenance costs by 40% and increase productivity by 25%. 6 months is too much, Richter replies. He decides in a week whether to acquire or close. Harry feels the weight of all the workers' gazes, entire families depending on this factory, his future being decided in a few seconds. He asks if he'd do it in 2 weeks. James looks at him incredulously, but Harry insists. It's not impossible. It's just a matter of not sleeping for 14 nights. Richter smiles for the first time. Harry is very confident. Harry responds that he's not confident, he's desperate. But when an engineer is desperate, he can work miracles. They shake hands. 2 weeks. If he succeeds, the factory stays open and Harry becomes technical manager for the entire Henkel Group in Britain. If he fails, he leaves without even redundancy pay. But what happens in the next 2 weeks will exceed all expectations. 14 days and 13 nights. Harry doesn't leave the laboratory anymore. He sleeps 3 hours per night on a camp bed, lives on coffee and sandwiches. His eyes are bloodshot. His hands shake from fatigue, but he never stops. James finds him at 2 in the morning on the 3rd day, bent over a printed circuit, soldering microscopic components with watchmaker's precision. 12 machines, 360 sensors, 4,000 meters of cables to run, and everything must work perfectly when the Germans arrive. The workers begin taking shifts to help him. Bob runs cables, Tom configures sensors, even the cleaning ladies stay after hours not to disturb his work. On the 7th day, Harry collapses. James finds him unconscious in front of the computer, the keyboard stained with blood from his nose. Harry regains consciousness, eyes feverish. 7 days left, he can make it. This is his last chance. On the 10th day, the unexpected happens. Lightning strikes the factory's electrical cabin. Total blackout. All the data in Harry's computer, 10 days of work, deleted. Harry remains motionless in front of the black screen, tears furrowing his grease-stained face. "It's over," he whispers, but Bob approaches with a USB stick. He saved everything every evening. He never trusts computers. Harry bursts into hysterical, liberating laughter. The last 4 days are a race against time. Harry works with energy that seems superhuman, as if he'd found a strength he didn't know he had. On the 14th day, at 7 in the morning, he connects the last sensor. At 9 o'clock, Klaus Richter arrives with his delegation. Harry turns on the central system. On a large screen appear the data from all machines in real time. Temperature, vibrations, current, pressure. Everything monitored, everything under control. Integrated predictive maintenance system, Harry explains in a hoarse voice. Every machine talks to him, tells him when it's well, and when it needs attention. Richter observes the data, asks technical questions, tests the system. An hour of severest examination. Then he turns to Harry. In 40 years of career, he's seen many factories. But such an advanced system implemented in 2 weeks? Never. Harry has saved the factory and earned a contract with the entire Henkel Group. Spontaneous applause from all the workers. Harry collapses in a chair, exhausted but happy. James asks him how he did it. Harry responds that he didn't do it alone. They did it together. All of them. Richter signs the acquisition contract, but adds a special clause. Harry Thompson becomes technical manager for all Henkel factories in Southern Europe. Executive salary, complete autonomy, unlimited budget for research. A year later, the Manchester factory has become a model for all of Europe. Engineering delegations come from all over the world to study Harry's system. He's opened an internal training school where he teaches young technicians that engineering isn't just theory, but also heart and hands. James has been promoted to managing director. Harry is his right-hand man, but above all, his friend. James has learned that pride blinds, but humility illuminates. Harry has learned that you must never hide who you are. Hands dirty with grease can have the same dignity as clean office hands. Bob approaches with a technical problem, a new machine that's playing up. Harry smiles. They're going to listen to what it has to say, and as they head towards the machine, James thinks that sometimes miracles are born in the most unexpected place, in the hands of a man who never stopped believing in his own worth, even when the whole world told him otherwise. Has this story moved you? Do you know someone who has a hidden talent, perhaps unrecognized? Share this video and tell us in the comments your story of redemption, or that of a person you admire. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Like. If you believe a person's value doesn't depend on qualifications or social position. Comment with your experience. Share to get this story to those who need it. Subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and change perspective. Because behind every face, there's a story worth telling.